Of course she couldn't come. Of course the children couldn't come. They're going to be killed. But now, what's changed? What's changed? Harry needs the good publicity. Harry has to move the story on, and Meghan knows she's got to play ball.
They needed Meghan bound more than anything else because their stock is so bad right now. Everything they're doing is failing. And so I do still firmly believe, it's always something I've stood by, I think the king has every right and does want to see his kid and his grandkids. As annoying as Harry is, as much as he may dislike and not want to see Meghan, it's still his son.
Of course, she couldn't come. Of course, the children couldn't be there. The stakes were simply too high. Anyone involved would be at risk. The reality of it was brutal and undeniable. But then, something shifted. What changed? Why now? Prince Harry suddenly found himself in need of turning the tide, desperately craving a fresh wave of positive press. The story needed a reset, a new angle that could capture hearts and minds. And Meghan? She understood the game all too well. She knew she had to cooperate, to stay in step with this new narrative, if they were going to regain footing. It wasn't a moment for rebellion or silence, it was a moment for playing the part. In the room filled with his closest allies, not a single chuckle escaped anyone's lips, no laughter. The absence of even a smile was deafening. That moment spoke volumes. To witness your strongest followers, those who have championed your cause tirelessly, suddenly lose faith, there's no clearer sign you've lost the room. It was like hitting a glass ceiling of disappointment that was impossible to ignore. Prince Harry.
They didn't laugh. He's in a room with his biggest supporters. They didn't even laugh. I think this is going to be the wake-up moment for Prince Harry, actually. I mean, if anything tells you you've lost the room, it's that. When your biggest supporters are no longer by your side. I mean, he stuck to the speech. I was actually furious by the end of it. I'm not going to play you any more other than this last bit, because he still believes that it's his place to lecture the world.
It was just a test. I think it was a bit of a party trick that he does. And I just remember so clearly thinking, God, I wouldn't want to be on a Class A drug in front of Prince Harry at this dinner.
Yeah, and it's like, you were not just trying to destroy other people's lives. Sorry, you were not just trying to destroy your life. You were trying to destroy other people's lives. You were trying to destroy entire organisations. You were trying to destroy the concept of a British free press.
Without wavering, stuck to his prepared speech. But as it unfolded, I felt an intense frustration bubbling up inside me. I won't play all of it for you, just a key snippet, because even at the end, Harry seemed convinced he still had the moral authority to lecture the world. But here's the thing, he wasn't just grappling with his own struggles. No, it went much deeper than that. It felt like he was trying to dismantle more than his own life. He aimed to tear apart the lives of others, to unravel entire institutions. He was challenging the very idea of a British free press, something that so many hold dear. The weight of his actions grew heavier when you consider who he was addressing. These were veterans, men and women who had sacrificed beyond measure, living with amputations, severe burns, and injuries that would never fully heal.
Well, that was just this little joke he had to kind of buy somebody's silence. He sort of said, "I'll pop this in your mouth," and then, I suppose if you've then taken drugs, then he can sort of hide behind that, and that, I think that was his little tactic. But I really did. I spat it straight into my napkin because I just thought.
And what do you think
if
it
isn't
was?
paracetamol, I don't know. I just don't know. I think it was probably just a paracetamol.
But he was testing.
It didn't look like a paracetamol, but no, it was a test.
They had given everything and stood before him with quiet dignity. And yet, Harry chose that moment to crack a joke about himself. Some might say it was an attempt to lighten the atmosphere, maybe even redirect focus back onto his own story. But to many watching, it came across as awkward, misplaced, a disconnect between his world and the sacrifices of those standing there. It was a moment that revealed just how far removed things had become, how complicated the narrative truly was. Instead of forging a genuine connection with the audience, the moment quickly took an awkward turn. Many viewers found the comparison to be out of touch and failing to strike a chord. An uneasy silence seemed to ripple through the room. And rather than sensing the mood and moving forward, he pressed on, making the atmosphere even more tense and uncomfortable. Then, shifting gears, he launched into a rather formal speech about resilience and service. It felt more like a lecture directed at the audience rather than a heartfelt conversation. He spoke passionately about commitment and facing challenges head-on, despite the fact that some critics have long questioned particular choices he's made in the public eye. For those critics, the disconnect was glaring.
Some of us have lost more of our hair. Some of us look younger than we did before. Some of us look older.
They didn't laugh. He's in a room with his biggest supporters. They didn't even laugh. I think this is going to be the wake-up moment for Prince Harry, actually. I mean, if anything tells you you've lost the room, it's that. When your biggest supporters are no longer by your side. I mean, he stuck to the speech. I was actually furious by the end of it. I'm not going to play you any more other than this last bit, because he still believes that it's his place to lecture the world.
The whole performance came across as rehearsed, more staged than spontaneous, lacking the warmth and authenticity people often hope for in moments like this. But what truly turned heads happened moments later. Alison Hammond, the well-known TV presenter, was given the rare opportunity to ask him almost anything she wanted. With a range of pressing topics on the table, from the recent court ruling and his security concerns to whether he even expected to see his father or tackle other pressing family issues, she veered in a completely unexpected direction. Rather than diving into any of those heavy subjects, Alison chose to ask a profoundly personal question. Do your children tell you they're proud of you? His answer was simple but loaded. They tell me every day. You could almost feel the room collectively lean in as people processed that exchange. The reaction was immediate and strong because many sensed there was far more beneath the surface. Adding to the intrigue was the knowledge that his wife was rumored to be attending the event. There had also been whispers that the children might be part of this occasion, which was painted as a significant family moment. Yet, none of that came to pass. When those expectations fell flat, commentators speculated that security concerns or other logistical issues might be at play.
But back then, he was joyful. His friendship circle was incredibly warm and open and kind. And it was a very relaxed and jolly time. And there was a little bit of an understanding that some of the things I saw or people around him saw wouldn't leak out into the press. And I think he kind of underestimates how much he was protected by both me, his friendship circle, who, you know, they weren't watertight, but, you know, they kind of protected some facts and maybe not others. And, yeah, I think he forgets all this now that he's looking through the lens of...
Whether those guesses were accurate or not, a large part of the audience walked away feeling this wasn't just a casual appearance, it seemed meticulously staged. Many believed he was sticking tightly to a script written well in advance, carefully managing every word and gesture. But just when it seemed the story had settled into a predictable pattern, something unexpected captured the spotlight again. Within the next 24 hours, a woman stepped forward in court and offered a testimony that seemed to shed new light on his story, perhaps even challenging the image he'd presented. Her name was Charlotte Griffiths, a journalist who had known him during his 20s, a time when his life was characterized by a whirlwind of social events, trips, lively parties, and countless nights out. Drawing on her first-hand experiences, Charlotte recounted a very different side of the man who had just spoken so solemnly. Her words sparked fresh conversation and added an entirely new layer of complexity to the unfolding narrative. Under oath, Charlotte Griffith recounted a moment that instantly captured public attention and sparked intense debate. She described being at a private dinner with several others when Prince Harry unexpectedly pulled out a small white tablet. Holding it up with a casual air, he looked directly at her and said, "I'll pop this in your mouth." The scene was strange enough.
Your kids and Meghan must be so proud of you. Do they tell you every day?
They don't tell me every day that they're proud of me.
No, they don't, because they're not proud of you. She's not proud of you. She's using you, but she's not proud of you. It's almost so tragic that he can't see it. But then he has obviously made a decision to not acknowledge anything, to not try and apologize, to not try and win back public support. So his speech, his major speech, which didn't even have good audio, and I think he looked a mess.
But Charlotte's immediate reaction made it even more gripping. She promptly spat the pill into her napkin. When questioned during the trial about what she thought the pill might be, she guessed it was probably just paracetamol, a common painkiller. Yet, it wasn't just the tablet itself that got people talking. It was something else she said in court that truly caught everyone's attention. Charlotte added, "I just don't know. I wouldn't want to be on a Class A drug in front of Prince Harry at a dinner." On the surface, it sounds like a simple statement, but the underlying implications made it a lightning rod for discussion. This wasn't just random speculation, it was her way of explaining why she hesitated and why she chose to reject the offer. But what made her think in this way? Why did the idea of being offered a dangerous drug, even just in jest, come to mind so quickly? She conveyed that she didn't see the act as a harmless prank, but as a subtle test, almost like Prince Harry was gauging whether she would accept something without questioning or hesitation. In her own words under oath, she described the whole encounter as shockingly casual, as if offering something to another person was no big deal at all, just a routine interaction. This personal perspective sparked a larger issue beyond just a moment with a pill. Many commentators...
I was with him. I was with that lot in the late 20s and early 2010s, in our 20s. And we all remember that time. He was quite leaky. His world was, as he said in Spare, a bit wild. Like, there's a picture of him there topless in Vegas. He then played strip billiards. He used to fall out of nightclubs. We've all seen that photo of him falling out of Bougie nightclub. Well, I used to go to Bougie nightclub every Tuesday. So I thought his case was flimsy because he was a very open person back then, and I felt that I was an example of that because I was there. I'm the same age as Harry, and I was there at the time.
Critics and observers started to question the dynamics at play, the imbalance of power, the blurred boundaries, and what it means when someone with immense privilege and constant security behaves a certain way behind closed doors. To some, this incident was not something to brush off lightly, but a snapshot worth deeper examination, a window into judgment, respect, and how personal limits are tested in spaces where rules often seem flexible. Of course, opinions vary widely. Some defend the moment as innocent or misunderstood, while others view it as emblematic of the challenges of power and privacy. But for those following the trial closely, Charlotte Griffiths' testimony didn't just describe a single awkward dinner moment. It became part of a much broader conversation about trust, responsibility, and the expectations placed on individuals in the spotlight. When it comes to truly understanding someone's character, the real test isn't how they act in the spotlight, but rather how they behave when no one is watching. This idea was brought sharply into focus during the testimony given in this case.
And I think that was his little tactic. But I really did. I spat it straight into my napkin because I just thought...
And what do you think
if
it
isn't
was?
paracetamol, I don't know. I just don't know. I think it was probably just a paracetamol.
But he was testing.
It didn't look like a paracetamol, but no, it was a test. It was just a test. I think it was a bit of a party trick that he does.
So ask yourself, why would The Sun run a breaking story today with zero mention of the white pill allegation within this? Harry's still royal enough to be protected. The Sun is a tabloid that thrives on stories exactly like this one, and yet silence. That's not journalism, that's access and narrative management. And actually, P. Diner, what I've been seeing a lot of is access and narrative management, because woke ITV unbelievably decided that the story of Prince Harry yesterday, because remember the day before, P. Diner, it's just worth pointing out the context, the day before, he banned all cameras.
Surprisingly, the media response was far more muted than many expected. A handful of outlets covered the testimony in some detail, while many others barely acknowledged it, or instead chose to spotlight entirely different aspects of the complicated legal battle. This uneven attention sparked a wave of curiosity. Why was such a pivotal moment barely making headlines? After all, Charlotte's sworn statement was now officially part of the court record, which should have invited deeper analysis and public scrutiny. As the dust began to settle, the conversation started to evolve. People weren't just talking about the verdict anymore, They were curious about what the testimony meant for the broader narrative. Some commentators saw this legal hurdle as a powerful reminder that even those with immense public profiles and resources are not immune to the harsh realities of the courtroom. It raised questions. Could there be more surprises waiting to surface in future proceedings? Might we soon hear new revelations that would finally shed light on this tangled story? The uncertainty and anticipation added a new layer of tension to the whole saga. And then there was Archer's court ruling an outcome that cemented the legal setback by confirming Harry's loss against the Associated newspapers.
I was focused on his lawyer, who was just badgering me and haranguing me and making me out to be this sort of fantasist, and said that I'd overplayed my friendship with Harry, and I felt very strongly that I didn't overplay my friendship, nor did I downplay it. Because I was in the High Court, I laid out a handful of facts that set the record straight. I had 2 paragraphs in the statement saying that he thought I was a credible and reliable and honest witness. And I felt I was, and during the trial, it was so funny because it felt like revising for an exam in the build-up, and I was very nervous about it. But once I got going, giving my evidence, I realised I knew all the answers because they were literally just reality of what had happened. They were in my head. They were the truth. So it wasn't too bad in the end, in the actual moment. But then the aftermath was awful because, of course, there was loads of trolling and also people thought the worst of my movie Snuggles.
This ruling only served to heighten the awkwardness of the situation. The courtroom drama wasn't the only thing stirring up headlines. Chris Shipp from ITV was also very much in the mix. If you caught glimpses of him recently, you might have noticed a striking scene. Chris literally kneeling down as Harry exited Chatham House. It was a moment loaded with symbolism and unspoken undercurrents. Some found it almost uncomfortable to watch this seasoned political journalist, once a respected figure in the UK press, seem to have sacrificed much of his impartial credibility by aligning so closely with Harry. Meanwhile, tensions were bubbling behind closed doors too. The King had publicly criticised one of his council judges after the High Court's decision, which is something you don't see every day, given the constitutional sensitivities involved. Such actions risk deepening political and institutional rifts. Still, despite these public strains, there's been a quieter, more personal chapter unfolding. The King has privately welcomed the Duke and Duchess of Sussex to Highgrove House in Gloucestershire, a more intimate setting far removed from the media frenzy. Harry and Meghan flew over with their 2 children from their European holiday retreat, joining the King and the Queen at this private residence. This meeting was notable, given the low-key yet significant nature of their reunion. It's no secret that Harry and Queen Camilla haven't enjoyed the smoothest of relationships since the release of Harry's memoir, Spare. That book didn't just make waves, it sent ripples through the royal family's dynamics, and its impact is still being felt today.
Tuesday's disastrous court ruling, which saw Harry lose his case against Associated Newspapers, will make things even more awkward. But it's Chris Shipp, of course, of woke ITV. I mean, we literally saw him, P. Diner, like, kneeling on his little knees when Harry was walking out of Chatham House this week. Harry, are you okay? I mean, the guy's embarrassing. He actually had like a long career as a political journalist in the UK. He has destroyed his credibility to team up with Harry.
He then played strip billiards. He used to fall out of nightclubs. We've all seen that photo of him falling out of Bougie nightclub. Well, I used to go to Bougie nightclub every Tuesday. So I thought his case was flimsy because he was a very open person back then, and I felt that I was an example of that because I was there. I'm the same age as Harry, and I was there at the time.
Yet, despite the public tensions and ongoing media storms, moments like these remind us there's a complex web of family and loyalty behind the headlines, a story far from over. Back in 2023, the situation around the Invictus Games took a surprising and tense turn, and for many, it stood as a clear sign of deep frustration, and some might say, a touch of hubris. You'd expect that after the incredible impact the Games have had, there would be nothing but support and celebration. but instead it felt like someone was shoving their feelings out there with little regard for the bigger picture. It's been an incredibly challenging week for Prince Harry, who's had to face mounting pressures on multiple fronts. On top of everything, he's been dealing with substantial legal costs from his unsuccessful legal battle against associated newspapers, a fight that has drained both time and resources. In times like these, one can only imagine how comforting a supportive embrace might feel, a reminder that, despite the turmoil, there's still a network ready to stand by him.
Just can't do this shows to me just a huge arrogance.
Arrogance and entitlement. He wants to try to shift the blame because he can't take responsibility for anything. So of course he has to counter it with, the palace doing something. And of course they're not doing anything. I mean, Harry is the one who's been the proven liar here.
Now, eyes have turned toward Birmingham, where the next chapter of the Invictus Games is set to unfold. The event's return to Britain was widely anticipated as a defining and uplifting moment for Harry, a chance to showcase the positive ripple effect the Games continue to create. And even among his harshest critics, there's a shared recognition of the powerful legacy that Invictus has forged. This isn't just a sporting event, it's a global platform dedicated to wounded, injured, and ill military personnel. It offers veterans not only the chance to compete, but also to travel, rebuild their self-esteem, and reconnect with a community that truly understands their unique journey. The impact is profound and deeply felt, which makes any whispers of trouble within the organization all the more concerning. Reports have surfaced, revealing just how costly the Birmingham Games might be, with estimates suggesting the price tag could reach tens of millions of pounds. This massive potential investment shines a bright spotlight on the event's future, drawing scrutiny from all corners. While the exact figures vary depending on what costs are included, the consensus is clear. The financial demands are substantial.
Well, this is also the countdown to 1 year to the Invictus Games, which everybody's lost track of. Nobody's talking about that. They're all talking about Harry's big loss in the UK, as well as the fact that he's not actually bringing the family. So this is a slight win they needed badly, and I'm kind of shocked that the king ultimately did do it. Maybe this was all just a redirect. He was tricking everybody so nobody would know where he was going to be when with the family, so he could get with it more carefully. I mean, maybe. It's interesting, though, that the palace is confirming it did happen.
He wants to try to shift the blame because he can't take responsibility for anything. Harry and Meghan, I think at this point, are having so many problems behind the scenes, Dan, that this is why you see all this chaos on the front end here in the media, because there's so much happening that we don't see.
Adding to the tension are murmurs about what some see as a surprisingly limited number of publicly confirmed private sponsors supporting the Games. Furthermore, news has emerged about former partners moving on, shifts in government backing, and several senior organizers stepping away from their positions. These developments have fueled speculation and concern, casting shadows over the game's stability. None of these factors alone necessarily signal an event in jeopardy after all. Large-scale international competitions regularly face changes in sponsorship, leadership, and governmental negotiations. But when multiple challenges converge simultaneously, the resulting uncertainty can be difficult to ignore. This kind of wavering atmosphere naturally complicates efforts to secure funding, especially when the organization relies heavily on a mix of corporate, governmental, and public support to keep the Games alive and thriving. Adding fuel to the fire, recently disclosed financial data has amplified the ongoing debate. Publicly accessible accounts from the Invictus Games Foundation, referenced in various reports, reveal specifics about direct grants and funding flows that have caught the attention of observers. These figures have sparked further questions about the sustainability and financial health of the organization as it prepares to bring the Games back to Birmingham.
It's not about the people once
Exactly.
again.
And who's been overshadowed today, which is exactly what they wanted. But let's just take a little look at her, P. Dinah, because I think she looks lovely. But of course, P. Dinah, then we get the obligatory Meghan's coming. You know, a few days ago, P. Dinah, of course she couldn't come. Of course the children couldn't come. They're going to be killed. But now, what's changed? What's changed? Harry needs the good publicity. Harry has to move the story on, and Meghan knows she's got to play ball. Meghan Spear writes, when all else fails, pull out the kids. Although they won't be seen by anyone, of course, but the noise is what matters. The noise will camouflage Harry's recent disaster.
The stakes couldn't be higher, and the coming months will be crucial in determining whether this beloved event can continue its inspiring mission without interruption. During one reporting period, the amount of money the organization granted to other veterans groups took a noticeable dip. This drop didn't go unnoticed. It sparked a wave of discussions and concerns around how the foundation was prioritizing its funding and managing its overall financial health. At the same time, reports revealed that the foundation's total income was actually climbing and its financial reserves were swelling. Meanwhile, the expenses dedicated to staffing, administration, and professional services began to attract increased attention and sometimes skepticism from watchdogs and curious members of the public. But it's crucial to see these numbers in the full context. The Invictus Games Foundation operates separately from the local organizing committees, who are the ones charged with putting each edition of the games together. Therefore, their financial records don't mirror each other exactly. Just because money sits in reserve doesn't mean it's being shelved or wasted. Many nonprofits keep financial cushions to safeguard future projects, support long-term promises, and brace for any sudden shifts in funding or sponsorship that could otherwise jeopardize their mission.
I am Andy Signor, and I was right. I knew it was happening. The graphic wasn't made in a waste. Meghan Bound is indeed happening as we speak. The royal re-entry has happened. It is being confirmed. Prince Archie, Princess Lilibet, and Meghan are reuniting with their grandfather, King Charles, for the first time in 4 years. Almost weird, like they gave him this, okay, we'll tell him you were here. Okay, because that might leak, and we don't want to blame that on you. So let's get that out of the way. Fine. We'll acknowledge we met. They were here, and we're keeping it private. It's kind of a smart way to do it. Some people might be saying, why would they even give them that bone? But honestly, it's going to be easier to weed out that they spread more if they at least get that out, because someone might leak out the fact that they arrived and they were actually there. And rather than wonder, was that Harry who did it or somebody else, now they got that out of the way, and now they can really find out, are more specifics going to come?
Similarly, those administrative and executive roles that sometimes raise eyebrows aren't necessarily excess baggage. In fact, managing an international event of this complexity requires skilled leadership, careful coordination, and often a larger team behind the scenes to ensure everything runs smoothly from start to finish. Legal and professional fees can also fluctuate legitimately, especially for an organization with operations spanning multiple countries and regulatory environments, where compliance and counsel can be costly but essential. Importantly, through all the financial statements available to the public, there's no indication that Prince Harry personally received funds from the charity, nor that any of the foundation's money was ever diverted to cover his personal legal expenses. This clear separation between personal and organizational finances is an essential point to emphasize to avoid misunderstandings or unfair assumptions.
Prince William was not there, He was at a charity polo match in Windsor, supported by Princess Catherine, so they weren't there. There's no plans for the estranged brothers to reunite during the visit. So a lot of what we had guessed happened.
She doesn't make it about her, circumstances or whatever that she may be going through, but about the people. And Meghan and Harry have lost the plot completely, and Catherine, she outshines every single time.
Oh, she does.
Yet, the conversation wasn't just about numbers or accounting jargon. For many observers, the heart of the debate was about trust, vision, and leadership, how the foundation's decisions and priorities aligned with its mission as a champion for wounded veterans. The emotional response stemmed from a perceived contrast. A foundation designed to provide support and grants to veterans appeared to be generating more revenue while sending out fewer direct funds than before. Naturally, anyone invested in the cause began to ask tough questions. Why are the grants shrinking? Why is more money being funneled into other categories? What exactly are these financial reserves meant to back up? And, crucially, how much of this money is effectively being held for future needs rather than immediate impact? These questions captured the curiosity and sometimes the concern of donors and supporters alike, fueling a broader conversation about how best to honor the commitment to those the foundation was built to serve. Beyond the excitement of future games and the inspiring stories that come from them, a deeper question lingered. What happens in the quiet years between these major international events? How is direct support maintained for injured and ill service members during those times when the spotlight fades? These weren't accusations or claims of mistreatment, rather. They were thoughtful concerns about how funding priorities were set and how resources were being managed. The conversations grew even more intense when people began comparing Invictus to other military sporting initiatives.
Buckingham Palace confirmed on Friday, today, that King Charles and Queen Camilla hosted Prince Harry and Meghan Markle and the couple's 2 children this afternoon. The reunion took place at Highgrove House, the monarch's private country residence in Gloucestershire, England. No images are expected to be released from the reunion, and no further details will be provided, as it was a private family meeting.
There's talk, though, there could be a constitutional crisis if the king actually decides to back Prince Harry and go ahead with that meeting. So I do want to talk about the significant sort of ramification.
Some critics pointed out that the cost per competitor seemed disproportionately higher for Invictus than for smaller military sports programs. This comparison sparked a heated debate, drawing more public attention than ever before. On the other side, supporters of Invictus argued that such comparisons oversimplify a complicated reality. Hosting a global event like Invictus includes far more than just the competition itself. It demands international travel arrangements, accommodations for athletes and their families, robust medical support, specialized programs for family members, worldwide broadcasting efforts, and grand opening and closing ceremonies. Accessibility needs add another layer of complexity, along with the bureaucracy required to run a seamless international event. Both sides present valid points. While Invictus may indeed be more complex and costly than some critics appreciate, it's also true that some donors had expected a leaner budget. This clash of perspectives created a challenging environment for Harry. Not only were financial details under public scrutiny, but the controversies surrounding his personal life and public profile increasingly intertwined with the Invictus narrative. Every court case, every private flight, every security issue seemed to amplify the conversation around the event, and not always in a positive way.
As annoying as Harry is, as much as he may dislike and not want to see Meghan, it's still his son. As a father, I just can't imagine not wanting to see your kid, even when they're annoying. You still want to be there at some point, especially in the final years, to say hi and give them a hug and see what's up and try to get through to them and see their kids. Of course, it's all incredibly important.
Chance for very young grandchildren to meet their grandfather really for the first time in almost 4 years, one that's now, continuing cancer treatment even to this day, and one which lives the complete other side of the Atlantic. So I think from Harry and Meghan's perspective, King Charles meets Prince George, Princess Charlotte and Prince Louis, that's Prince William and Catherine's children on a regular basis. It's something different.
Carefully choreographed interviews, media appearances, and headlines risked, reinforcing the idea among some observers that Invictus was becoming less about supporting veterans and more about promoting the Sussex brand itself. This growing perception threatened to shake donor confidence. When supporters start to question whether a charity's energy is dedicated to its mission or to its famous figurehead, trust wavers. And rebuilding that trust isn't something that happens overnight. It requires patience and transparency. In the midst of this, Harry desperately needed the public dialogue to move away from money questions and refocus on the core mission of the Invictus Games. But just when it seemed the conversation might shift, another development instantly changed the headlines. A few days earlier, Meghan shared in an interview that she and their children wouldn't be traveling to the UK because of what they described as insufficient security measures. This decision sparked intense discussion on its own, layering on new complexities to the public story. Then, as the debate unfolded, the court reached a ruling on Tuesday and Harry lost the case. The verdict dominated headlines everywhere, with the media coverage amplifying every nuance.
I think Meghan is just trying to get something that she's not entitled to get. And this is why they pull out, because they want them to get the best of the best. Well, you have enough for who you are. to go show up and do the work, but you don't show up because it's all about you.
I think it's incredibly important for family to stick together, something Meghan refuses to do with her own side. So it's nice to see someone, maybe it was Harry, maybe it was who knows who pushed it, finally did get through to them and say, you can't put this off. You can't dangle and hold this hostage any longer. You're here. He's made it available. Go do it. And perhaps it was all a redirect, who knows? But what do you think of all this? Are you happy by this at all? Can you admit that? Or am I missing something?
Headlines erupted across the globe, framing this as a major legal blow that quickly seized the public's attention, dominating news conversations everywhere. After 4 long years apart, Meghan finally reunited with their grandfather, King Charles. But the whole encounter felt almost cautious, like they were treading lightly around a fragile moment. Imagine it, the palace quietly giving a nod. All right, just tell him you were here, but keep it hush-hush. Okay, we don't want any leaks. It was an unspoken agreement wrapped in subtle strategy. By acknowledging the meeting without spilling all the details, they tried to reduce speculation and control the narrative before someone got ahead of the story with partial truths or rumors. It's a clever move. Sometimes conceding a little can prevent a lot of misunderstandings down the road. Critics might wonder why the palace would even offer this small gesture, this bone to the couple, but if you think about it, it actually makes sense. If the news of their arrival and presence leaked out with no official comment, the palace would be left scrambling to piece together the truth amid a flood of inaccurate reports. This way, they set the record straight. Yes, they were there, and no, it wasn't a secret anymore. Now, with the broad details out of the way, it becomes easier to focus on what really matters, and perhaps to anticipate any new information that might emerge from the shadows. Meanwhile, you might be hoping for a heartwarming reunion between the estranged brothers, but Prince William was notably absent from this chapter of the story. He was attending a charity polo match at Windsor, an event linked with Princess Catherine's support. So no, the much-anticipated sibling reunion didn't take place on this visit. There are no immediate plans for Harry and William to come face-to-face during this time, which leaves the door open for future discussions. But for now, the distance remains. Official confirmation arrived on Friday from Buckingham Palace. King Charles and Queen Camilla welcomed Prince Harry, Meghan Markle, and their 2 children to Highgrove House, the monarch's secluded country estate in Gloucestershire. The palace made it clear that this was a private family visit, with no photographs to be shared and no additional details to be offered to the press. The walls of Highgrove have quietly witnessed this delicate moment, one shrouded in emotions, unspoken words, and cautious hope. Observers on the outside saw this gesture as more than just a simple meeting. It was seen as a father extending a tentative olive branch to his son. However, the timing sparked debates among legal and constitutional experts, who questioned whether this was the right moment for such a meeting and pondered its broader implications. Could this family moment influence public perception of the monarchy? Was it a step toward healing, or a move fraught with political and personal calculations? The conversations continue as the world watches this historic family saga unfold behind closed doors. As the world watched, commentators couldn't help but wonder if King Charles might be putting his family ties above the long-standing traditions of the monarchy. The institution he represents, after all, is intertwined with centuries of duty and expectation, but opinions were far from unanimous. Many saw a different, more personal story unfolding beneath the surface. At 76 years old, King Charles has been transparent about his current battle with cancer, openly discussing his treatment in the public eye. Add to that the reality that his younger son lives abroad, separated by geography and quite possibly by time, with reports frequently noting how little the two actually spend together. Even his grandchildren, cherished symbols of legacy, have reportedly seen little of their grandfather, confined more to distant visits than everyday moments. From the perspective of a father and grandfather, some suggested it was only natural that in this moment of quiet vulnerability, he would want to seize the chance to connect with his family, to create memories while he still could. This more intimate, human take on the situation struck a chord with many who saw past the formalities to the deeply personal, emotional currents at play. But, of course, the situation was anything but simple. Alongside this heartfelt reasoning, others voiced concerns about the broader implications. The king's decision, they argued, was riddled with political and reputational nuances that couldn't be ignored. Balancing the demands of a public role with family loyalty created a challenging tightrope walk filled with potential pitfalls. Some critics contended that welcoming back a son who had openly challenged a key court ruling sent a troubling message. As the monarch, King Charles is expected to embody the stability and dignity of the nation's institutions, and critics warned that this personal reconciliation risked undermining that image. For them, it shaped a complicated perception of both father and son, casting shadows over their public personas. Yet, just as many dismissed this view, emphasizing that at its core, it was a private family matter, one that didn't need to be dissected through the harsh lens of public debate. There's a lesser-known angle that hasn't drawn nearly as much attention but adds further layers to the story. Thomas Markle, Meghan's father, lives far away in Mexico and has, according to numerous reports, never had the chance to meet his grandchildren, Archie and Lilibet, in person. Despite their royal connections, the gap between generations and geography has kept that bond from forming face to face. These long-standing reports painted a starkly different picture from the recent scenes of King Charles spending time with the children during the family's visit. Observers couldn't help but notice the stark contrast. For some critics, the divide was striking. They questioned why Thomas Markle, who is not part of the royal family but has a direct familial bond, remained distant from his grandchildren, while King Charles was able to enjoy moments with his own grandchildren, stepping back into a family role in the public eye. This sparked a broader conversation about what factors influence these relationships and whether proximity to an institution like the monarchy changes the nature of familial bonds. It opened a window into the complex web of family, public life, and the expectations that come with both. What if everything had played out in an entirely different way? Many have speculated that factors like social status and family circumstances shaped how the public has seen this story, while others remind us that the true reasons behind deeply personal family choices remain largely private, hidden from public view. This mystery has led to a wide spectrum of opinions. Some interpret the events as a reflection of Meghan's priorities and decisions, while others firmly disagree, emphasizing that we simply don't have all the facts to pass fair judgment. The lack of full transparency leaves room for vastly different interpretations and intense debate. Thomas Markle has opened up in several interviews about the profound sadness he feels from being distanced from his grandchildren's lives. He describes a heartache that comes from missing irreplaceable moments, birthdays, school milestones, and cherished holidays like Christmas that, in his eyes, cannot ever be recovered. These are milestones that many take for granted, yet for him, they represent deeply missed connections that have left a lingering void. Despite this pain, he has expressed a hopeful desire to one day meet his grandchildren face to face, revealing a softer, tender side behind the headlines. Meanwhile, details about private gatherings involving members of the royal household have frequently made their way into the public spotlight, igniting waves of curiosity and speculation. This spotlight has led some observers to question how these confidential plans were leaked, fueling doubts about the authenticity of public messages promoting family unity. To some, what they see is a tangled web of personal choices, rather than simply the expected logistics, security concerns, or the unique complexities that come with royal life. Others caution that since not all information has been openly shared, it's difficult to draw definitive conclusions. As the narrative continues to evolve, many important questions remain unanswered, hanging in the air like an unfinished chapter. Legal battles, court testimonies, financial matters connected to significant events like Invictus, and the public's reaction all intertwine to keep the focus firmly on Harry and Meghan's journey. Whether the full story will ever come to light remains uncertain, but one thing is clear: this ongoing conversation is far from over. If you found this exploration insightful, take a moment to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel for more deep dives like this, share this video with others who love royal stories, and be sure to leave your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and I can't wait to see you in the next video.